Okay, so for our previous meeting, the last session, that's the recording is available now, and we've pushed it to YouTube already. So probably after this meeting, I'll send you the link. But I think I tagged you in the post on LinkedIn.
I didn't check yet.
Okay.
I didn't check LinkedIn for 2 hours something. So.
Okay. So I think we can just proceed immediately. Anyone who doesn't come immediately would be getting the recording later. So just for introductions, for the sake of everyone who is here, I believe we all know Jeremy, but let me just reiterate again that Jeremy, is the founder of Cash Story and founder of Naas. Naas is a platform that, a Jupyter-based environment that allows data people, AI people to easily push AI projects or data projects or any kind of automation project, to production seamlessly without going through the entire hassle of, CI/CD, deployment, MLOps, DevOps, and all of those issues. So Naas just abstracts all that process so that you can derive immediate value from your data. So it speeds up time to application for your data projects, which is a very interesting thing that you and your team are doing. I think it's something that we find very interesting, and of course it's a next generation application. This is going to remain very relevant for years. Okay, so what we're going to be dealing with today is quite interesting, and it builds up on what we looked at in the previous session on data value chain. Today we are going to be talking about data strategy design and execution. And from the last session, just to reiterate some of the things that we, to summarize some of the things that we did in the last session, Jeremy took us, through the entire process of, building a data value chain, making us understand that these things are not really that easy. They're not as easy as they sound. And, he used a very interesting story to make us understand the frustration of, the frustration of not having a working data strategy, and how disconnected, most business executives are from technical people, making it difficult for, for them to understand the complexities in this technical project. So a solution where you're able to abstract all those entire processes and, make communication executives, it's not easy to build, but it's possible. And so Jeremy gave us did a walkthrough on the entire mechanics, or at least some of the important mechanics, because it's not easy to cover all of this in just 1 or 2 hours. But he just gave us some brief ideas on how to connect this entire process, and some of the components to that need to be in place. Different silos you're talking about here, but the glue of everything. I can remember clearly in that session, he said the glue of everything is data, and that's very important. So today we'll be building on that, talking about data strategy, how organizations need to, recognize their strategic data needs and push towards execution to achieve to realize the value that comes out of data. So without wasting further time, I'll just leave the stage for Jeremy to do much of the talking, and then I want you guys to be interactive today. I mean, the last session, most of you were quiet. Jeremy even talked about it, so I would like everyone to to open up, ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask. I myself, I'll be asking a lot of questions. I'll be asking a lot of questions in this session. I'm ready for Jeremy this afternoon, so let's get ready also. And at this stage, I'll just welcome him. So thank you very much, Jeremy. Over to you.
Thank you, and happy to be here. And so let's make that as much interactive as we can. I don't have all the answers. I may be wrong on some stuff, but what I'm going to tell you is what I've experienced, and I will tell you what I've experienced and what I know about it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about data strategy. As Zion introduced me already, I'm the founder of a project called Naas.ai. You can find us on the internet, Naas.ai. And we are taking Jupyter notebooks to another level because we enable people to push projects end-to-end, to create end-to-end projects from notebooks without going anywhere else. Then in your notebooks, which is the most used interface as of today for data science and a data professional. So it's the idea of a one-stop, and you can do everything from there. Notebooks are great, right? Notebooks are good for business people and for technical people, because you can write text and you can write code in the same document, which make everything much more transparent. And today we're going to talk about data strategy. And as a teaser, I will talk about one company that has been doing a lot in data strategy. It is probably the best company as of today in managing their data. And you have their color on you, Zion. It's the red. It's Netflix. So we're going to talk about Netflix and their famous platform and how they became this gigantic platform when they actually started selling DVDs back a few years ago. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to you're going to have two parts. We're going to have this part. We're going to talk about data strategy, what it is, and then we're going to talk about execution, and we are going to see in the light of Netflix, how did they execute their strategy? Are you ready?
Amazing. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Okay. So, yeah, the topic of today is data strategy design and execution. So I talked about that already. You can check us out, Naas. And I would just come back on Paul. Paul is the CEO of this company that you know, like an imaginary kind of company. This guy is spending most of his time is in emails and attending to meetings. He doesn't really have time, but he wants to know what is in the sales pipeline, what is in the booking, what is in the cash, the debt, and everything. So I'm just coming back on this because be sure that the actual thing that you are trying to do when you do data is serve this guy with enough information so he can take the good decision for your company to stay alive and be efficient. And you rely on this guy because he is actually bringing money as form of investor money, as form of revenue, as some like is really with him and his board of directors, the guys that are trying to manage the company you're probably working in, or even if you're a director, you know that everything comes down to a certain circle of people that are trying to take decision as good as they can. It's this way that a company has worked for the past forever. Like this hierarchy is here. So we need to take this into consideration. There is a few organizations that are completely horizontal, but it's only a very, very, very few companies. But anyway, at the end of the day, there is one guy that decides. It can be Paul on the top, but it can be Paul as the manager of your unit as well. You can see a company as different units, different little companies inside the same company that has this kind of organization where you have some kind of a leader that has information and needs information to do good and to drive his company. So, but things are not that simple. You know, you want to have data, but it's not that simple. It's always more complicated than it looks. And you need to ride and to mitigate whatever is happening into you. And there is always constraint. There is always changes. It's a moving environment, right? It's an interconnected moving environment we are living in. So it's very hard to keep going and have everything automated properly. So I'm just coming back on this last session. We have talked about this pyramid, the data, information, knowledge, and wisdom pyramid. This is the way you should see any kind of data project. Or anything related to data should be following this framework. Data is just noise, chaos, signal. Information is when we use a system to apply it to data, and the key word here is system. You want to build a system to manipulate your data. Then from the system, you can get knowledge, and eventually you reach the wisdom part where you can actually better foresee the future. And we talked about that as well, data as an asset. So if you want to be successful in any kind of data vision of yourself, of working, you need to understand that data needs to be an asset, needs to be seen as an asset. From raw data, it should be seen as an asset. Because even if it's chaos, even it's so much data point, it's an asset that you need to take care of. It's like you have a whole house and you don't take care of it. If you have assets like buildings and stuff, you need to make sure that your data, even if it's not in good shape, even if it looks not good, it's still raw data, but it's an asset. So you need to value this asset. You need to make sure the value of this asset is going up, because from raw data, it's almost zero. And then you want to go up and have a valuation of your data. This is why ultimately those big companies like Netflix, Google, Amazon, this is what ultimately why those companies are valued for, right? They are valued for their data, the data that they have collected and the way they have organized it to take decision and to drive their business. So the whole idea here is to be able to have some kind of interaction between Paul, the CEO, which is taking a lot of, he doesn't go into scripts. He doesn't know anything about scripts and everything, but he wants to have some kind of a people he needs to talk to actually map his brain. Like, it's literally mapping his brain, the whole challenge here. He knows everything. He has everything. He is in control of this company. So he has so many stuff to take care of all the time. And he has to map his brain out. He has to, because everything is here connected in his mind. You need to focus on how to transform this into a map of how he is thinking. Let me just deep dive into this. Like, first of all, he needs to make profit. He needs to sell stuff. So he needs people to understand what he's working on. And from this point, he has to translate that into sales. So it's different areas of the business, but everything is connected. To make sales and to have the cash, he needs to produce. So he needs to buy the goods. He needs to make sure that operations are working well. He needs to also have enough marketing. And everything is about like mapping his brain. How does he see value? What is the valuation? So I'm going here against on all those stuff. So cash is about how much his cash is have in his bank. So the data here is basically bank account, how many bank accounts, how many currencies, how many entities in different countries. This is how much cash he has. This is how he can live. He can pay your salary at the end of each month. And then you have the value. So the valuation of all this asset. He has different assets. He has buildings and everything. This is the value of his company. He has also a strategy. How he is aligned with the strategy. Is he having everything in line with his strategy or not? Like, is it reaching his objective or not? This is important as well. Marketing-wise, we can have some, is the plan executed correctly? What are my different campaigns? What is the status of this campaign? In terms of operation, it's like, how does my project deliver? Is it if it's a manufacturing chain, is it working properly? All of this is generating a lot of data, a lot of frustration also for him, because he cannot really see all this data clearly. But he needs to have the big picture, so he can really manipulate and play and run this company efficiently. So the whole challenge here of the strategy, that Paul needs to have something that maps out his brain. And why does he need that? Basically, it's very simple. We are doing business. It's about business. So it's about increasing revenue, decreasing cost. Very basic. So what do we know about data strategy? So data strategy refers to the tool, process, and rules that define how to manage, analyze, and act upon business data. So this is basically what I've told you. I just tried to figure out an example of a kind of a storytelling for you to really go deep into how human this is. It's about a human, a guy that needs to have the data to make sure that he can take the right decision. It's always coming back to human aspect of it. So data strategy is about processes, is about systems, basically, to manage and act on business data. So the other idea is that data strategy helps helps make decision based on data. So this is very clear. But it also helps you keep your data safe and compliant. So this is interesting. Safe and compliant is not something that we have talked about at the very beginning, because we were just trying to understand what this guy, Paul, needs to have in terms of data. But safe and compliant will come to another notion that I will introduce later, which is the kind of strategy we can have. And the kind of strategy, it's just this slide. So the kind of strategy you can have is either a defensive strategy or an offensive strategy. So data strategy is only two kinds, one of those two. But you can use those two efficiently. You can use those two in your business if you want to run it. So this a little bit. It's very much something that is related to the war, defense, offense, but it's kind of the idea, right? So you need to, in a defensive strategy, your objective is to ensure the data security, privacy, integrity, quality, regulatory compliance. It's about making sure that you keep your asset safe, that you are in line, compliance, that you manage. So this data strategy is about making sure you're safe. And everything is about optimizing and standardizing and making sure your storage is okay, making sure you back up your data, making sure everything is in control. Okay? And this means having a single source of truth somewhere that you can rely on for each of those different aspects I've told you about, like marketing, operation. Everything needs to be organized in a certain way. So, source of truth somewhere. So much I can see that companies have different sources of truth. Like the sales guy has a kind of a truth. The guy from the product has also another truth. It also happened in Naas as a project, as a tool. We have a referential for all those guys that are the users, and on the sales on the CRM, on the sales tool, and there is the product tool, which is having the list of all these users. So sometimes it doesn't match. So who is the right? Who has the right answer? Who had the truth? How many users do we have? Okay, there might be discrepancies. So in this aspect, you need to make sure that you have a single source of truth. You make sure that your data for a certain kind of business domain, like client, supplier, banks, every kind of key element of your business, of key referential, you have a single source of truth. And there is the offensive strategy. And this offensive strategy is also about improving, is another game, right? It's about improving your position in the market, winning more clients, winning more market share, improving your position, basically, and your profitability on stuff. So this offensive aspect needs you to get into a bit more, like analyzing where are the margins, where is your traffic coming in, if we talk about the web traffic. So if you want to analyze your traffic, you want to know if you're coming from Google, from Facebook, if people are coming to your website from certain channels, and you want to optimize your cost of acquisition in terms of these users, because each channel, if you use like advertisement, is using a certain kind of cost. So you need to focus on that, and this will help you optimize your strategy to get more users. Visualization, it's about transformation, enrichment of your data, like making sure when you get one user, you can enrich who is he, from which country is he working, what position does he have, how do we qualify this guy. it's not defensive. You're not trying to defend yourself from anything. So I'm really trying to give you a few examples so you can really understand what are those two kinds of strategies. It's very, very easy to see when you talk about some kind of project in your companies, you can already know if it's a defensive strategy or offensive strategy, if it's going into which part. And you have to understand that the objective is not the same. So this objective of offensive strategy is flexibility. The other one was control. So you're not talking to the same level of people, you're not talking the same language if you're in an offensive strategy or in a defensive strategy. In terms of architecture, you have different versions of the truth. So it's like you can have different versions of the truth. You can allow that. You can allow that for some kind of data, you don't have the same name, you don't have the same label, but you need to deal with this because the key here is flexibility. So you need to adapt. In a way, you can finally map all these different versions of the truth to one at the end of the day, but you need to allow a certain kind of flexibility. You will not have, if you're integrating a new company that it doesn't have the same referential than yours, or if you are trying to do new stuff, you can allow that name as their name in your single source of truth. You can allow that because you need flexibility. And you need to get into an offensive position and try to go on some unknown terrain. Do you have any questions on that slide? Okay, so there is a question from. So what is the best practice for employing this strategy in company? Do you employ defensive first, then offensive? Okay. As I told you, it's two strategies you need to play with. It's not one or another. Just be sure of this. Like it doesn't make sense to do only one. You need to do one and the other, and you need to balance. So it's not about which one to choose. It's about how good you balance the two. Okay? Does that answer your question? Feel free to open your mic if you want, right? Yeah, you did. It's about balance. It's not about choosing one or two. Most of the companies today, to answer your questions, are defensive because they don't know how to do offensive. So most of the companies right now, they're trying to do a single source of truth. Everything needs to be organized a certain way, and it's really, really strict. And this is where they're going wrong. Like they think, okay, I have a control on this, and I have only this available in my mind. But this is not good because if you do this, you're in a defensive strategy and you're not open to an offensive strategy where you can do other kind of stuff. So it's very important to balance the two and not be sure you have only focused on one. So yeah, so about this, you have a spectrum, and you need to understand also the spectrum of the data strategy. So there is different industries, different kind of regulations. So here is an example of, okay, I have problems in my earphones. Just wait a second. I'll go with the speakers. Can you hear me still? Can you hear me still? Can you hear me still, guys? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you.
It's noisy.
Yes.
It's more noisy?
Okay,
Just
it's okay.
Wait a minute.
It's okay.
Just wait a second. Okay, I have my microphone now plugged. Is it better? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
It's better? Way better? Okay, cool.
Much better, yes.
All right. I have this professional microphone here now. I'm not anymore in my AirPods, so it's surely better. All right. So do you have guys any questions on this? Like, there is the data strategy spectrum. This thing needs to be understood. So it depends on the on the industry you're in. You're gonna have some kind of strategies that are related to your industry. So it's really about that. You need to know where you stand and make sure that if you're an hospital, you're more into a defensive standpoint, and if you're in a bank, you're in the middle. If you're a retailer, you can be more offensive. It's kind of logical, but it's good to remind this. So I have a question on the road, so we'll drop it here. My question is, who takes charges of data strategy in an organization? It's literally changing from different organization to another, but the data strategy is done by a guy called the CDO, Chief Data Officer. In the most common situation that I've seen, it's the CDO who actually does the whole data strategy. So yeah, this guy, the CDO, has the responsibility of organizing the data. And it's quite a new kind of a job. So it's still unclear sometimes what is exactly doing this CDO, but he does have this as a key topic. That's a sure thing. So yeah, data strategy is powered by the CDO, but the guy that is really in charge is the top management. Ultimately, it's them who needs the accuracy and the value out of their data. So, and to be honest, I think it's a problem for everyone. The data strategy of the company is a problem for anyone. If you're an employee in this company and that the company is not really data driven, at one point you should be concerned. It should be your problem too. If the data strategy is not working properly, you should be a force of proposition, of power. And at your own level, you can just make little changes so people can understand that data is important. I hope it answers your question, Queen. The data strategies principle. Okay, so data strategies have principles. So if you go on internet, you will find those key principles. Try to unpack a bit those different strategies. So we talked about two kind of data strategies: defensive, offensive. This is pretty clear, I hope, for you. It's about balance. Then you need to understand where your industry stands in terms of sector, and eventually you need to come to a more detailed strategy. And if you want to write down a strategy to understand, like, also do this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 7, and analyze those 7 points I'm going to talk about. So the point 1 is the data governance. Data governance is about who is in charge about the data. It's not because it's the CDO, like the Chief Data Officer of the company, that is in charge of the data strategies, that is governing everything. Just be sure not to make mistake on this. Data governance is a topic for at any level of the organization. A program that ensures the compliance of the data cycle. So everything in the data cycle should be in the hands of the people who knows the best. Let me give you an example. On my previous job, the Treasury Department, where I was working, was in charge of the banks, currencies, and list of accounts. So basically of bank accounts. So basically those are the three elements that my department, the Treasury Department, was the best
to decide and to understand how this data is generated, how data is generated on these topics. So you need to just have a program that makes the best of the departments in the companies get the power and the hands of the data. So if we are talking about taxes, it will be the tax department. If we're talking about salaries and list of employees, it will be the HR department, and so on. So governance is about putting the right people in place and in power to get the correct data and to understand the life cycle of this data. If there is an employee that is leaving the company, when he is leaving the company, it should be HR to be removing the line of the list of all of this guy in the company and provide the information to the accounting system, for example. So let's move on to the number 2. So about data content. Number 2 is data content. So what you need to understand here is we talked about governance, so who has the end on what, and now you need to understand about the content. Content generation and information generation is about goal achievement as well. You need to generate value from your data to achieve business goals. So the content generation is something that you need to see as a way to make sure that the data you produce is useful. You need to understand, is it useful or not? Because it's here, the key is here, so many data is generated, but it's not useful. So data content and accuracy of your data content to serve the business goals is very important. If you're doing some stuff in your company and it doesn't serve any business goal, or you don't know what goal it accomplished, then ask yourself the question why you're doing it and probably move some lines inside your company. Like, why I am producing this data for? What is the business goal of this? Number 3 is data quality. Now you have this data, it's very cool, you have it, and you know what business purpose you serve. Then you want to go into the third one, which is the data quality. Data quality is about actually knowing if your data has the value that you think. And ensuring this data quality should be a standardized process. You should always know how to assess the quality of your data. So it should be quantified in a way. It's quality, the keyword here, but you need to quantify the quality of your data. So you should be able to say, I'm sure that this list of bank accounts we have in this company of this group is sure to 99%. Like, I'm pretty confident that I have the whole perimeter and that I don't miss any bank accounts. It seems to be a bit like funny, but you would be surprised that a lot of companies have a lot of bank accounts open everywhere, and sometimes one that is not used, which is having 0 in the bank account, and they don't even remember that they have this bank account somewhere because the referential, the list of the bank accounts is not properly managed. I've seen that in my previous experiences in working in data in treasury. So data quality is important. So data access is another layer, is another principle, which is the, how to make sure that each and every people in your companies has the right access to the data that you want. We're going to talk about it then with Netflix. It's pretty interesting because they have opened the data access to a lot of people in the organization. But still, there is a lot of companies working in silo. So you need to package the access. You don't want everybody to access the list of your bank accounts if you want to come back on this one. Then number 5 is data management. You need to enforce company standards for terminology. So data management is a big topic. Like, coming back to this example of a list of bank accounts, you want your banks to be named the same way. if you have a few treasury management system spread out all over all over the world, you may have one bank which is called a certain way and one bank that is called another way, another label. So this is about master data management. It's called like this right now. And master data management is about basically having a same dictionary for stuff that the company is producing. So also a big topic, and it's not to be undervalued because a lot of people don't understand what the other is doing because they don't name it the same way. So this is really key here. And I'm always amazed to see that some of the companies don't even know that they have different terminology for different type of clients. Well, comes the number 6, which is the data-informed decision making. So what does this mean? This means leveraging data as more that it's what it has been done originally. So you want to make sure that internal and external decisions are made on this data. You want to make sure your data is leveraged from this data you have collected. So how do you do that? You make sure that everybody in the organization knows that they have some kind of a data they can use to take decisions. Sometimes people take decisions and they don't know that they have the data and they don't use it. So it's problematic because you have some data, you're producing some good quality data and people are taking decisions based on the gut feelings. What you want to do is make sure that this is lowered as much as possible. You want to make sure that people use data plus their gut feeling so that they can take the best decision. And finally, the analytics part. So this is our last principle. You need to make sure that insights, explore predictive insight, they say, and fine-tune the data to gain competitive advantage. This analytics is coming back to the offensive strategy, which is bringing a real value added on your data. And I guess that this part is also undervalued because so many of the data that we see is descriptive analytics. It's not predictive. It's not trying to foresee the future. It's just trying to get inspired from the data you have. So this is where the machine learning and everything comes in. All those tools we have now can help us better foresee the future and not be so much into like looking back in the mirror. Do you have, guys, any questions on this 7 principle? It was a bit long, but I think it's necessary for you to understand this framework because this is how most of the people at the very top level of organization that are playing data strategies and all this consultant and people that are coming at you to give you advice on your data, they are basically using this framework. And they are always knowing that there is 2 kinds of data strategy, which is the defensive and the offensive data strategy. Is data quality same as veracity of the data? I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly because I think that data quality is about accuracy and veracity is a synonym. I'm just checking out because English is not my first language as well. So veracity is about accuracy also. And yes, data quality and veracity of the data is probably the same idea because it's about how accurate your data is. It's all coming down to this keyword of accuracy, like how accurate your data is. Is it 80%, 90%, 95%? If you're going to give a data to a top manager, are you going to tell him like, I'm 100% sure this is the right data? Or can you just tell him like, I have a pretty good level of confidence that 90% confidence that this data is correct? I've been facing this so much time. When I was giving my reports to my top management, this guy was saying like, oh, but how accurate do you think this is? Do you think you have the whole perimeter? Don't you miss some part? You always miss some part. But you need to understand that at least if you have this certain level of accuracy, you can be sure that you do your best to get quality data. So yeah, this is something that needs to be also like it's a synonym basically. It's probably a synonym of this. So I guess this answers the questions. I hope it's answering your question, Marian.
Just to add to that, I would say, I don't know, is my sound okay? I'm sure.
It's still having some background noise, yeah.
Okay,
but okay,
can I
go ahead.
Okay, so just to add to that, there was something you mentioned earlier, which I think I liked when you were talking about data quality. You said it's not just about quality data, but there should be a way to quantify the quality of the data. Okay, which means now you're talking about, okay, what are the metrics for quantifying this? How do we know how qualitative it is? Okay, there's quality data, there's much more quality data, and so it's in different variations. So I think that's all that links well with the topic of veracity now, because with veracity, you want to find out how trustworthy the data is, whether it is reliable, what level is this data reliable. So yes, it's about quantifying the data quality. So it's very much related.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you need to put yourself in human shoes. Like if you're talking to someone and you're saying something to someone, how you're basically providing information based on data. That is like, did you read this on the news? Is this news accurate enough? How biased is this newspaper? Is it from this political party, this other political party? So you need to see it as a percentage of accuracy when you talk about data quality. This is the ultimate indicator, I guess. So yeah. Good if it answers your question, Mayim. Okay, so I just explored another way to see it here on the internet. You can find it. So architecture, data quality management, we talked about it. Data ownership is about governance. Metadata management is about data management here and data access. Data management policy is also about like the governance and content. And architecture is some kind of place where we didn't go yet. And it's important because this last aspect, architecture, goes more into the technicality. And so this is a good way to go to the next part of this presentation, where we are going to talk about Netflix. Their data strategy is heavily based on their infrastructure. This is what we're going to deep dive right now. So be sure you're quietly and comfortably sitting in your chair, because this is going to be a big topic. So Netflix, you see this curve? You see this is the revenue of Netflix. So does it look like exponential to you? Because it looks exponential to me. Those guys have cracked something. This is definitely something that they have found out a way to make business and to like grow exponentially since 2012. Before it was just so the yellow here, I think I don't remember what it is, but the curve is actually interesting here. The share is in red is the share international growth, and the gray, I think it's internal market in the US. So they cracked the code. They literally cracked the code. They found a way to scale their product on the planet. And today they're making, like, in 2020, they made $24.9 billion in revenue. So yeah, so what else do we see? So yeah, we saw the increasing share, and during COVID, those guys have made like plus 10 million users. So it's huge. And they are almost everywhere. Almost. So you can see only a few countries that doesn't have Netflix. So just to have a bit of interaction with you guys, how many people have Netflix here? Does some of you guys have an account? Just comment on the side if you don't mind. It would be funny to see if you guys have Netflix or not. All right. So they have the coverage they have crazy coverage. So how do they even manage to do that? And they are almost on every device. So you can watch on your phone, you can watch on your tablet, you can watch on your screen. How are they doing it? Like, and they are pushing new content regularly in different countries. It's not always the same. Well, the question is, how does Netflix manage data at scale? And the answer is they have a very, very strong data strategy. This strategy is based on one tool at the very beginning that has enabled discovery of the data in an easy way. And they are using notebooks. So in their data team, heavily, since the very beginning of Netflix, they have been using heavily notebooks to get insights and communicate those insights. We're going to come back on this. So just a few numbers. They manage, as my last as the data I have from different papers that I've gathered, 1 trillion events every day are sent to their data pipeline, meaning that all your devices are sending data always, and this is events. So they have new events coming in every day. Every second, they are pumping whatever you're watching. If you're touching your screen to make pause, if you're swiping to get some new ideas of what do you want to watch, they are getting everything. And this is the way they understand what you like. So 1 trillion is big, huh? It's this number. So it's huge what they manage. So they've managed to build a strategy that is able to gather this much events every day. This means hundreds of petabytes of data saved in the data warehouse every day. So massive. And they run more than 150,000 jobs every day for data analysis. Crazy amount of jobs here that is run, and basically just huge numbers. And they do that because they want to improve the user experience. They are obsessed by user experience, and they're obsessed by attention, your attention on the platform. The time you spend on this platform is where they get the most value, because they want to bring interesting content to you. And they want to bring it seamlessly to you. They are working on improving their product always. They have started by selling DVDs, which is quite interesting. And then they moved to the CEO. He has this crazy idea of moving everything to the internet when the internet got started. They started like very basic, right? They have this small interface where you could start watching your shows. So it was very basic, and then it improved slowly to something similar to this that you know right now, with a much more like immersive kind of experience. They are reinvesting, they are making 9 billion and reinvesting it on original content. So this is how they create also more data on their own data. They are producing, gathering data on top of it. So whatever information they get from you, using this to create original content based on your likes and needs, based on what they have understood of your data. So this is why they are able to build like enormous, gigantic blockbuster like Stranger Things, and they have it on different languages, or 13 Reasons Why, or these different shows that you may have heard about. That they are really, really data driven. Like everything is data for them. And this is how successful they became, because they have been obsessed by data for the very beginning. So they use it for personalization and search. They use it for content and studio creation. As I told you, they are curating and producing the best content. They are using it for business operation. So of course they want to use it for managing their finances and their business. They use it for marketing and growth. They use it also for the product to optimize the service. So let's stop on this. And this is actually the business brain that we want to map. The CEO of Netflix having this idea of gathering all this data on the different aspect is business. So the CEO is called Reed Hastings. If you guys want to deep dive on what they do, just read RRED. I'm just going to paste it here. You need to make some research on this guy. He's quite inspiring. And they are making a podcast that I really suggest you to watch. The Netflix podcast. We Are Netflix podcast. This is a very interesting podcast that they are promoting. So I really suggest you guys go in it. So coming back to the idea of mapping a business brain, this is probably what Netflix has as a brain. Like they want to have personalization, content creation, business operation, marketing, growth, and streaming. All of this stuff, they want to use it to grow their business. So it's very big topic, big area. And you can already see here the different strategies. So who is governing this? Who is taking the data? How does the guy access to this data? All of these questions we have seen in the previous slides. Remember here? Everything here, we are going to map it down after this presentation and try to figure out and discuss about it. You need to really have this in mind so you can see what I mean when I'm telling you all of these things, because they are related to their data strategy. Yeah, cool. All right. So these are the key areas of your business when you are Netflix. Personalization, content and studio creation, business operation, marketing, and streaming. That's it. There is not too much stuff. There is 5, 6 elements. And also what you need to understand is if you don't manage to put your strategy down to a handful of topics, like 5, you cannot really perform as efficiently as you think, because you're going to have too much stuff on your plate. So you need to be really narrow and precise in the group you want to focus on. It's not sales and marketing here. It's marketing and growth. And all those names, I'm taking this down from Netflix presentation. So they're not doing it is out of hazard or whatever. They are carefully thinking about how they organize this. So one thing you need to know as well is like at Netflix, the content you see is 100% personalized. So it means that you can literally get into like something that is yours on your Netflix, and it's not the same for your friend or your brother, sister that is having Netflix as well. So they manage to have a very personalized aspect of the data. What they do is gathering all this data, collecting it. It's embedded in their product, in their strategy. What you need to understand is like they have put it so much into the data strategy, is so embedded into the product that they manage to go and try to find new thumbnails. Every time you watch Netflix, you have probably seen that there's new thumbnails coming in because they want to attract your eyes. They are testing out different stuff. So they really have this proactive way of trying to find and test and iterate and learn and test, iterate and learn on the data to actually get your attention. And they do that because they have a crazy powerful infrastructure. So basically, they have simplified the whole governance and aspect that I've mentioned earlier. I will talk about it at the end, to really focus on infrastructure and how they collect this data and make it efficient for everyone. So let's deep down now into the Netflix data infrastructure. If you guys have any questions, we can also discuss about it now. Then we move to this next phase. Is there any questions? No questions? Let's move on then. All right, maybe you will have questions here. I hope you guys can see the screen. And if you want to summarize how Netflix infrastructure works and how efficient it is, it can be summarized easily. So here it is. Everything is here. What do you see? Only a few boxes, right? Not that much stuff. But you can still get a lot of information here on how they work and what they do. So I wanted to come back on this. Do you think like having a more defensive or more offensive strategy before starting? How's the offensive? Defensive?
This is defensive here. This architecture is defensive.
It's actually a balance. As I told you, it was a tricky question. There is a balance between the two because they're having both defensive and offensive aspects. Because all this data they are collecting this data to make sure that all these devices, they collect data all over the world. They are having this regulatory problem also that they cannot collect everything, and sometimes they have on different countries they cannot have certain kind of data. But they are having this way of protecting the data they produce. So they are defensive in a way, but they are also very offensive because what they want to know is how do they can figure out a trend in the consumption on different kind of movies, different kind of topics that raise the attention of the people. So it's also it's both ways.
I think sorry, let me add this. I think that makes sense because I can remember the diagram. Can you hear me? No. Okay. So yeah. I can remember one of the charts in the offensive versus defensive that you showed us earlier, and we saw on the defensive side you have single source of truth, and then on the offensive side you have multiple source of truth. So I think this is a mix of both, because here now we can see the data coming from multiple sources, and then everything is flowing into a specific source. Not the specific sources anyway, because the flow is across a couple of frameworks that we have here. But I think it all still goes into the data storage component that I can see on this diagram. In which case, all that data is being source, but the data is actually coming from multiple sources of truth. So it's like both defensive and offensive. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. It's always about the balance between the two, actually. And with this, they managed. What I wanted to show you is that with this, they managed to go into a very like proactive kind of architecture. So let me explain you how it works. So on this one. So on this slide, on the left-hand side, what you can see is subscriber activity. Simple. Subscribers are going to watch Netflix, generate data. Every day, you're going to have new flows coming in, new events. So events is the second part. They're using Kafka for that. It's an event management system that basically has the list of everything that has happened, and it has data. What happened? When did it happen? What user? How many data did he get? Maybe they also are talking about the interruptions of connectivity, because sometimes when you don't have internet connection anymore, they have data loss, so they can also lose some data at some point. They are not having some data points to make the link between the two because of the internet connectivity or different kind of aspects. So this event management system enables them to understand where there is a gap, where there is a hole that is not covered. Okay, so event management system is the crazy efficient way of managing your business, because you can have a stream continuously coming in. It's like you have something alive. You're managing something that is really alive and having so much data gathering all the time. So this big event management system is sending data to AWS S3 bucket. I don't know if you have heard about the S3 bucket of AWS, but it's a very efficient way of storing data on a file-based system. So basically, imagine your device is generating a file. This file is sent into AWS S3, and then this raw data, because it has the data storage has three phases. Three phases are the raw data, the data warehouse, and the representation that you make of this data. Basically, the views that you can make on top of the data warehouse. Because when you are having this raw data, you want to ingest it in some kind of a structured way. So you have raw data, it's your file coming in. Then you want to transform it into something which is a warehouse, which is organized. So you want to put everything coming from on one side, from iPhone on another side. Basically, you want to organize it at a certain level of understanding. And then you want to make representation. So you're going to go to iPhone data, to computer data, and different kind of data. And you want to ask a question, which is, what did watch the show, this specific show yesterday? This is the kind of question those guys want to answer, and they want everyone to be able to answer it. So if you want to answer who watched the Stranger Things series yesterday, anyone can be able to access it. So to make sure that this data storage is the different steps you can see here are managed, you need to go into different steps. So you have data pipelines that are managing the different steps. They are going from raw to data warehouse to these representations, and they are having the Spark, Jupyter here, Presto, whatever kind of tools they have in data pipeline. It's enabling them to refine the data. It's like refinery. It's like oil. Data is the new oil, some people say. So oil is the same process. You go from raw to data warehouse to a certain kind of abstraction where you can actually play interactive queries. At that level of time, like it's basically Analyst or like quite efficient like data science team that are using different tools to query this data storage, this big warehouse of data. And then you have this warehouse, you have this big storage, but you have also some fast storage because you want to have some quick answer or some results that are needed to be accessible very fast. You don't want to actually deep dive into each and every event of everything all the time. You want to access one particular number, and this is probably not the place to put in your data warehouse. You want to have a fast storage system, somewhere that you can really ping the data that you want and get an answer very fast. It's like your short-term memory and your long-term memory in your brain, right? You want to have some short-term data already accessible. It's only a handful of tables that you have in your brain, that you know how much cash you have, what you need to do next weekend, but you don't understand, or you don't remind whatever you have done in last 3 years and what you will do in the future. So basically, you need to think it as if it is your brain having long-term memory and short-term memory. You want to access it for different kind of uses. So then comes this data visualization aspect. So interactive query will be more for technical people, but they will also use the fast storage. And the data visualization is for any kind of business user that is not really working with data as their raw material, as they are not having data as their primary interaction. Paul or Reed, the CEO of Netflix, is probably not having his data. He is not having data, manipulate data all day. It's not what he does. He's talking with humans, making sure things are going, making sure projects are well done and taken care of. Those people that are not in the hands on the data all the day, they also need to access to some kind of data visualization. And this is also the topic of this data viz part, where you can access fast storage, so information that you want to have quick, easy. What is interesting here is Jupyter is everywhere. Very interesting. Data visualization, interactive query, data pipeline, it's everywhere. So it means that this tool is key in their organization. They are using it for interactive computing, and it's enabling them to bring together business people and technical people at a certain level of understanding of what data we need to get and how it is given to you. So they've managed to do this thing of breaking barriers, breaking silos, to make sure that with one tool, they can do a lot. And Jupyter is this tool, as you can see on this screen. So yeah, I didn't say it, but it was quite obvious. Red arrows are the data movement, and data access is the little arrow with dotted line. Do you guys have any questions on this? Do you find this graph interesting? Does it ring a bell to you? This is probably the most efficient example of how our data execution, data strategic execution can be done, in my opinion. But I'm happy to share your views if you have any questions. Form of little files into a bucket, S3 bucket in AWS. It's transformed, it's organized by a system to be organized in the data warehouse. And it's also splitted to access different views. So it's not because you store something a certain way that you cannot view it in another way. So you have views and you have storage. And views are also kind of a way to store the data. To transform this and to have this level of transformation, you use data pipelines. So you transform your raw data to your data warehouse, to your next level, whatever you do. And this is used by data pipeline. So data pipeline access the data and move the data inside the warehouse. Then this is long-term storage. It's here that you gather all this data you have. But sometimes you don't want to access so much data. You don't want to access all the past. You want to just make predictive analytics, go further into more details. And this is why you have the fast storage. The fast storage is made for that. And once you have all this data, you want to access it. So you need to have interactive way of querying the data through like Python, Jupyter, etc. And you want to also enable non-business users, non-technical users, business users to access the data visualization. So it's quite simple actually, and it's telling a lot on the data strategy of Netflix, which is empowering people in a very, very simple way. And this is why I'm moving forward to this slide, so you can understand how funny it is and how really impressive they have organized their business, their strategy, their whole company is organized on 3 layers. You have data product guy, you have data insight people, and you have business decision and improvement of products. So data product people, they work on data all day long. They are data viz engineers trying to find the best way to visualize the data. They are analytic engineers trying to figure out like whatever information they can get from this data. Is the iPhone is the iPhone device not really optimized because there is a problem? People don't know how to click on this button, and then you have not much click on the, you realize somehow that your platform is not having any click on this kind of stuff. Then it can trigger a problem where, okay, we didn't design the button in a certain way that you can click on it properly, so it's not on the show. So those kind of people are working on the product. They are data product people. And there is engineers helping them organize the data. There is algorithm engineers making sure that they can make sure that, for example, if you don't have the correct data, you need to have some algorithm to create data where there was no data, to make sure that there is continuity. How good do you manage the data is with some algorithm on the product side. This is the first layer. This is the base of the data. Those guys are acting on the data generated by the product, meaning the platform and the devices. Then moving to the data insights, you go to research scientists, quantitative analysts, data scientists, ML scientists. All of those guys, they are here not to analyze the product. They are here to provide insights. And they provide those insights to business decision makers and people that are here to improve the product. So this last layer is the board or the top level of the organization, because they need to take the decision that matters for the long-term strategy and the current strategy and how it is executed and is done properly. Software engineers, business analysts, you have technical program managers because they manage programs, campaigns. You have product manager, and you have, of course, executive, where you have the big boss, CEO, and all those board of directors. So they have organized. You see, if we are talking about data strategy here. Those guys have organized their company with the data. Like based on the data, it's not even a pyramid. It's just a flow of information coming from the bottom, coming from the data to the top, which is the wisdom and everything we talked about the first pyramid I've showed you. It's not even a pyramid here, but it's quite linear and quite easy to understand that they are moving from the data part, like the quite chaotic part of the data, to some insight, to some decision. So they managed to do it and to embed this into their organization. So this is like a crazy good example of how a good data strategy is executed by Netflix. Any question on this? So data product works on the raw data and the data insight on the refined data. Yes, most likely. I'm just sharing with you what I've experienced, what I've learned from the different readings that I did, because Naas is based on what Netflix has done. Like we have built the product Naas inspired by what Netflix is doing. So what part of the product of Naas is based on open source component that Netflix has released to the market, and it's the scheduling of notebooks. They are scheduling notebooks, so we took this open source part and we integrated into the product. So I'm not 100% sure of what I'm telling you here, but yes, I would say that this guys working in data products, they are more eager to work on the raw data, and the data inside people are more expecting some kind of refined data, so they can really put their head into it and figure out. So data quality here is the issue. They want to improve the data quality. So they are here to make sure that all the way, what the quality of the data they are providing to the guy on the top is the most accurate as possible. Hope it answers your questions. Anything on this? All right. So coming back on principles, it's about design. It's all about design. It has never been anything else than design. It should be simple, it should be integrated, and it should be collaborative. This is the framework they use. Design principle, and they apply it to all the organization as well. This is simple, it's collaborative, and it's integrated. Everything is integrated. Everybody, every part of the system is integrated to each other. Simple, integrated, collaborative. So, what are their challenges? They have challenges as well. And we have pretty much the same while trying to build a data engine as they are having here. So we have kernel stability. So we want to have computing power always accessible. We want to make sure that people access this data in the right format. So this is quite difficult. We have native data visualization. We don't want people to redo the analysis all over again. We don't want to we want people to redo the integration all over again. When they have to integrate different tools and analyze, they need to have it on the spot. They don't need to rebuild what has been already done. They need to make sure that they can schedule their jobs, because if every day I want to have a report coming in my desk at 9 a.m. and I want it to be automated, I need to make sure that the scheduling system is taken over and that robots are using or running scripts that I need to get my data and my reports in due time for taking decisions. They need to work on intuitive log and error messages, because once you are interacting with data, you always have logs, you always have error messages. You need to just make sure that it's intuitive and people understand what's going on. You need to build templates. Also something that we are deeply focusing on in Naas, if you have followed us, on the templates it's about business users. It's about enabling business users with templates so they don't have to have so much brain power into building stuff they don't know about. They just want to give a few inputs, run something, and get outputs, and understand what's going on, and trust people that has been building it for you. So this is also a heavy part of the challenges. And of course, source control and versioning. You know, if you have followed a bit what I'm posting on LinkedIn and everything, I believe GitHub is an undervalued skill, a really, really undervalued skill. And we are going to talk about it next Thursday if you want to join on probably the same time. I'm going to go live on LinkedIn about it. And then it's crazy how source control and versioning can dramatically improve your process. If you do some stuff and you do it on your side and you don't commit, you don't push something to GitHub, you don't finally push something to make sure people can see your work, what you do is worth nothing. Nothing. So you need to just make sure about versioning your work, making sure it's available, making sure it's pushed somewhere. If you are doing any kind of data science job and you're not pushing every day something, ask yourself the question why. You should be pushing every day. And this is also a topic of versioning, pushing stuff. It's very important. So I'm just going to take one quote from this person from Netflix. So people have to understand that they don't have to understand the complexity, they just need to understand the templates. So it's the head of data that has said that. And I would like to go deeper, but we are running out of time. So I would have loved to talk to you about chaos engineering, but in a nutshell, to ensure resiliency of the data strategy, they are using this chaos strategy, chaos engineering. So they are destroying part of their infrastructure. Listen carefully. They are destroying part of their infrastructure voluntarily. They are voluntarily killing themselves in a way to make sure that the system is resilient. So they're trying to test out their system, to stop their server, to see if there is a process that enables consistency and continuity of their services. So chaos engineering is a big topic I could do an entire talk about, because it's really a big philosophy. It's a philosophy of understanding that everything is chaos around us. We just need to figure out a way to know what's happening if some chaotic event come to us. We cannot prevent the fact that chaotic event will happen. What we can do is we can prevent what we're going to do when this chaotic event is going to do. So it's not about the problem and, this problem has happened. No, it's about, okay, this problem has happened. What did you do about it? What did you do? Did you make sure that you have this scenario in mind and you have a kind of already thinking about what needs to be done next? So yeah, coming down to the takeaway very fast. But I wanted you to experience the whole Netflix thing, because it's important it's important to have in mind what are those guys doing to make sure that you have good reference when you work in data and you want to talk about data strategy to someone. So one principle here. So governance is genuine among business leaders. So they are governing data based on the most accurate person that is that is able to take decisions. Number two, data content, automatic collection and easy delivery. Automatic collection, easy delivery. They know how to collect the data with the stream we have seen, and they know how to deliver it easily as well. About data management, they do a data management based on their streaming infrastructure. So they have events. It is event-based. Some of the organizations are not event-based. But those guys are managing it based on events. So they are managing this data based on events that are coming to them. About data access, it's pretty easy. It's open data. So everybody can access any kind of data in the organization. So they have cracked the problem by making the data accessible to anyone in the organization. So about question here, easy data collection. Is this why they asked for thumbs up after you watch a movie? Yes, they are collecting every data you do on the device. This you should know. They get everything, and you agreed on it when you signed up. So they can collect this to improve their service. This is how they do. You just need to trust that they are doing it goodwill to make sure that they provide good content to you. And if not, you can just delete your account. But yeah, basically this is why they do. And so data quality, we talked about it. So data access is pretty open in their company. So they don't provide all the data of everyone, obviously. But inside the company, anyone can ask the question, how many people did watch this show yesterday? Anyone can answer this kind of question and access the answer. About analytics, everything is prepared by data teams and exposed to everyone. We saw the different scale and different levels of the organization. And about decision making, as you understood, Netflix is 100% backed by the data they collect. So they don't take any kind of decision on launching a new content or a new movie based on nothing. They collect the data, they get it, they understand that you guys in Nigeria you're watching some kind of movies, some kind of topics. They try to find patterns, and then they provide some kind of experience. In India, it's really obvious. All those like crime thing, and they have created a whole series on crime and investigation in India based on the likes of the Indian people. So you will feel that they are trying to map out the culture. They're trying to understand the culture behind each and every country, so that they can provide the kind of accurate content to you. And why they are expanding like this, coming back to their crazy curve, is because they have been carefully collecting and analyzing this data, and they have organized themselves internally to be everything about data. Data is the new oil. It's the energy that will make your company flow in the future. And currently, right now, we are in the industrial era now. Everything is connected, and Netflix is the best way to do it. So if you want to deep dive into this, I would also suggest you join next Thursday the talk of Dennis Rothman on the Industry 4.0. He's going to talk about what you need to do if you want to be interconnected. You need to understand the interconnectivity and that everything is connected to each other. This is what I wanted to show you also today, that strategy is a big word, but it's all coming down to very pragmatic and very simple way of also showing the stuff. If it's too complex, it's this Thursday. Yeah. And it's all coming down to mapping out in a very simple way. Your organization is mapped like this. Your whole data flow is mapped like this. When you come to this level of simplicity and easy also understanding of how it works and how it all aligns strategy and execution, you have in your bag to carry on and to build better. So I think this might conclude the session. What do you guys think about it? Like, did you find this interesting?
Wow, Jeremy, you've said so much in just 1 hour plus. Actually, you've said a lot of things.
Yeah.
And wow, where do we start? Well, I have a lot of questions. I don't know if time will permit me to.
We have time.
Ask them. So, we're talking about data governance, and we can see how Netflix really took that data governance and made something very useful out of it. So I'm thinking, what do you think are pitfalls? Because I know a lot of organizations talk about data governance. In fact, so many organizations like to talk about data-driven. Data-driven looks like a very sweet word to throw around just to show that you're doing something with data. And I know a lot of organizations talk about data-driven and all of that, but we know that most of these organizations still struggle with integrating data strategy into their business strategy and getting value out of that data strategy. So I would like to ask, what do you think are pitfalls to data governance initiatives between a lot of organizations, which definitely is the reason why we see a lot of failure in execution of a data strategy? What would you say are the pitfalls to data governance initiatives in several organizations?
Yeah, very, very interesting question. So I think it's all coming down to mapping out the brain of decision makers. People don't sit with the decision maker too much. They don't understand their pain point, their needs. They assume a lot of stuff. And when you really sit with your top management and you really take the time to understand what he thinks, how does he think, how does he relate stuff to each other, you will make a very much more accurate data strategy. 100% sure. It's all coming down to sitting with humans and talking with people that are taking decisions. Like, how do you think? How do we relate this? How this is related to you? and understanding all this flow, you need to go find your management, find your top management, your boss, your manager, or whatever, and you need to understand how he thinks. When you know how he thinks, you can bring the whole strategy alive. You can find out, these pillars of Netflix: content studio, business operations, streaming, marketing and growth, and personalization and search. Somewhere it came out from managers, like probably the CEO, that said, okay, I see my business like this. My business is 5 block: business operations, content studio, this, and this. So this Netflix map is different for another company. So being able to do as simple as this and create those blocks, create those different units, is the most difficult part. But once you have it, you can execute better, and you can find a common ground to do it. But this will be different for any kind of industry. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And before I ask my next question, there was something while we were talking on the 7 principles of data strategy, you were talking about understanding or identifying the problem that you want to solve with the data strategy, which is very key. I think that's really important. Finding out what the problem is and deciding your strategic data needs. For example, we saw, in this Netflix case study, we see that they clearly identified a problem, from at a very early stage. They clearly identified, okay, what problem are we going to solve with our data, and improving services and products, monetization, improving business operations, and we saw that that kind of gave a direction for how the flow of data would go, how the flow of information would go from data products to data insights,
yes,
to the business side. Yes. Let's look at this again. So I found this really interesting, and sometimes for you to think that you can just jump into these processes, okay, but in this case study we see that it is really the problem, the identification of the problem, and the strategic data needs that form the framework to build this process upon.
Yes.
So they did not just jump into all of these processes and start pushing data around through the various channels. Everything is really just based on the business. So I think if the business really comes first, the data then is an asset that's to be part of that business. And any project or product that is built or that is executed as part of the implementation of that strategy is only to support the business and to make impact on the user base or the customer base or for the clients.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Well, those are interesting things. Okay, let me just ask this one question. Let me ask this one. How do I put this now? We talk about data warehouses and data lakes. This question is a bit technical.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know what you think about this. Do you think in implementation of the data strategy, especially a working data strategy, for example, in the case of Netflix, what would you say about data warehouses versus data lakes? Because we see that for a long time there was this domination of data warehouses as part of data management processes where we do a lot of ETL, that's extract, transform, load.
Yeah.
That's like the pipeline used from data engineering to analytics and insights. But now we are seeing a kind of paradigm shift to ELT, is extract, load, transform, and everything, just like you mentioned, a single source of truth. Everything just flows into the data lake, hit that data, and then pull it out. Do you think that the adoption of data lakes, data warehouses and ETL processes, do you think this adoption is compulsory for a successful implementation of a data strategy, or do you think it is specific to the organizations and their needs, their level of growth, and the kind of all of those factors. I'd like to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I was just checking out, because to me it's always quite unclear how data warehouse and data lakes are a real topic, in the game. So what is more important for me is this event data stream. So most of the people are thinking like, should I use data warehouse, data lakes? Should I load first, then transform second? Should I transform first, then load second? I think you should store the data. Personally, I think you should store the data as fast as possible in some secure place. So once you have collected the data, you take it and you store it somewhere. And you don't really care if it's transformed or not transformed. You just take the data as it is. You take it, you store it. And once you have this done, you can build on top of it. So I'm more an advocate of extract, load, and transform then, because on this process, you are sure that you're keeping your data safe. The problem here for Netflix is sometimes they have cut in the they have cut in the connectivity of internet, so they don't have any data. So what they need to do is take out the data and store it as fast as possible. So they have this data, and now they can build on top of it. And now about the lake, not the lake, the warehouse, etc. I think it's all a high-level view of how to approach data storage. It's not really. It's really this kind of discussion you want to have when you have already, just get started, because a data lake or a data warehouse, man, it's files at the end of the day. It's just a directory with files into it. We are doing project with the LinkedIn data content creator, right? We have collected a lot of data from LinkedIn, and we have gathered it, and we have made analysis on posts of people. We started thinking like, oh, we need to do a data warehouse, data lake, database, whatever. We started thinking this way. It was not the place. First is, how do we store the data, and how do we query the data easily? How does it not take hundreds of minutes to get the results? So you just take the data, you store it. So what we choose, for example, it's an insight I can give. We choose to store it in the S3 equivalent. So a storage system, actually we stored it into the Naas. So we took the Naas, we stored the data into the Naas, and we built a data warehouse inside the Naas engine that is storing not CSV file, but Parquet files. Parquet files are columnar files that enable us to easily query the data in a columnar manner. So you don't have so much. So it's going quite fast. You can do that by making SQL queries, and you pack this into your Python notebook, and you have some kind of SQL queries inside of it. So you query the whole Parquet files inside the notebook, and it's giving you a data frame, and this data frame, you send it somewhere else. You need just to think in terms of flow. What is the best flow, and how fast you can deliver your output? Once you have this done, then you can retro engineer and figure out if a data lake is better than a data warehouse. But you don't need to go so much complexity. A file system is fine, and something like DuckDB that we have used is fine. A little bit of a notebook and a Python script is also fine. And just make sure you deliver the insights, and then build an emergent infrastructure that is fitting your need, depending on what you actually need to do in terms of. Then you can build up your, a bit defensive strategy. Like, I want to protect this, do that. Then I want to organize this way. But if you want to get insights and provide results and be flexible, which is the offensive part, is the part that nobody is really doing properly, right? Defensive part, everybody is doing, storing, etc. But everybody is in a defensive mode in the strategy of data today. I just advocate more for a more offensive way, where you are flexible, you build fast, and once you have value, you can switch to defensive mode. I hope it makes sense.
Thank you very much for that. That makes a lot of sense. So, looking at this, simple is better, and actually simple is better. And it's always good to start from something simple.
I like one play on word, man, which is called, it's kiss like a kiss. It's keep it simple and stupid.
Okay, yeah. Amazing.
Keep it simple and stupid. Kiss.
Yes.
So remember kiss.
That makes
remember
sense.
to kiss.
So as complexity increases, then you scale up to meet those the needs for such complexities. That's interesting. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Build fast. Fail fast. Learn and don't worry too much about the choosing of your tool, and just go. This is what we advocate for at Naas. Just go, just build it, just go into the code, make it, and then you will figure out the best way. Once you have value,
one more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I said once you have value, then you can take better decision.
Yes. Okay, this just came to mind now. I'm looking at experimentation. Some companies do a lot of experimentation with data and their products. And so, do you think it's? There's this company. I can't remember. Is it Yelp, or I can't remember which of the companies, but they allow any employee can actually run experimentations on their products. Any employee can just run an experimentation, take it live, and test maybe a particular region, a particular location, and test how users interact with their products. What do you think about this? Do you think it's part of a good strategy to allow?
I think it's brilliant.
Because you talked about every member of an organization should be involved with the data strategy. It's not just for the top executives or for the data people. Everyone should be carried along, and everyone should, data literacy is important in organizations for everyone to see and to understand that this is where we are going with our data, this is where we are headed, and we want everyone to run with this vision. So, in light of that, I was now thinking experimentation should every employee in the business or in the organization be involved with experimentation, considering that sometimes without the proper knowledge, these people could take the wrong experiments live. They could put the wrong experiments into production, and that will affect a lot of things. So, do you think there should be a kind of balance here, or I don't know how would you advise around that?
Just coming back to what I said about the data governance, I just think that the best people in the job should be the one managing the data. So if your guy from the marketing is making experiments on marketing data, makes total sense. Brilliant. Go for it. If your marketing guy is trying to figure out finance stuff, he's not
that makes sense.
He's not the one to be in charge. So he can go for experiments, but he will not take them seriously because you have a first layer, which is data governance. And if somebody in marketing is coming to you and talking finance, no way we can take your word. Just talk to finance.
Yes. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I guess
that's a good one.
I guess this is a simple mindset we need to keep in mind. Like, best people in the job are the guys to ask the data and to manipulate the data. And if it's not clear who is the best people in the job to manipulate the data, then you have a problem and you need to fix it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because accountability is also key here. Someone needs to take responsibility for any challenges or any mishaps that take place in the course of executing some of these things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need to rush, man, but I think it was a good session.
Yes, we've taken so much of your time. Thank you very much for giving out, because you've given a lot in this session. Thank you so much for all that you've shared with us. We work on some of these things ourselves. We also try to see how we can improve on our own side too, and take some of these best practices and work with them. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
I hope it was helpful for you guys, that you enjoyed the
Yes,
session.
definitely.
So, see you soon, and as usual, if you want to follow me, you can keep on LinkedIn and chat and message. I'm very available. If you have any questions, you can just ask them on LinkedIn, and I will do my best to answer you and make some posts about it if some topics are interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you.
Welcome, everyone.
Pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
Everybody. Thank you.
All right, guys. So I think that's a wrap. It's been a wonderful 2 hours. We really planned to just make this 1.5 hours, but Jeremy has went in depth into this topic, and I'll be posting a couple of questions, so that we can we'll be sure that all these details that we were able to grasp them. So all this will be coming up on the platform later. Thank you very much, guys. So enjoy the rest of your evening. See you in the next session.